Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Ineffable Podcast. I'm Rebecca.
And I'm Maddie.
And it's Pride Month. It's Pride Month, so this week we're going to talk about, before we get to the very end, the impact of Zerfel and Crowley on the LGBTQ plus community, its queer rep, and the impact that it had. I'm excited.
Yes. Love these two idiots so much. Can't wait to talk about them.
Me too. I feel like when you really get into it, there's not a lot of gay rap. Like, there's a lot of lesbian rap out there, but there isn't a lot of gay rap. So to see that in Good Omens was really nice.
Yeah.
And I feel like it was in danger in its first season of being one of those ships that was kind of implied and not really acted upon.
Mm-hmm.
And then in season 2 they
happened.
Yeah. And as we know, in season 2 they changed that. They changed that quite a bit. They kind of broke the mold in a sense, because they could have gone the route of, okay, we're not going to make this happen, but they chose to do it, which I found really refreshing.
Mm-hmm.
Maddie, can you think of any other queer couples that have had this kind of treatment, had the kind of bad treatment of, oh, we're kind of going to make it canon, but not really, in shows?
I think just what I appreciate about Good Omens is that, like, all of the representation in it is just, it just is. Like, this is just the world they're living in. This is how people are. No one bats an eye at it. No one says anything. No one, like, makes it a big deal of, oh, this is, like, it doesn't feel like a lot of other media where it's, like, kind of preach you or bash you over the head or, like, go too far in the opposite direction. It just feels like this is how it is, and we're just, oh, like I go to the scene with Nina asking Crowley, like, oh, you've been getting along, like, is he your boyfriend and husband? Like, not for a second did she ever clock him as anything heterosexual. And so it just, like, and I mean, you could contribute that to her being lesbian too, but I mean, it just, I feel like that is where, I don't know, I just appreciate that about it, that it just makes it not a big deal. And so therefore it just feels refreshing and just chill in that way.
And Good Omens, that's a really good point, because Good Omens does this thing, like, it has non-binary characters. Most of its angels and demons are non-binary or kind of presenting in an androgynous kind of way or something like that. And I feel like Good Omens never goes out of its way to be like, okay, this is a non-binary character, and this is a trans character, and this is a gender queer character, or anything like that. It just sort of, like you said, they just sort of exist, and that's kind of it. Their purpose in the story is to move the story forward, not to be just what they represent themselves to be. And yeah, that's and they'll be given the screen time because the story demands it, rather than representation, which I find really refreshing.
Yeah, and I love that, because, like, that's what I like about Rick Riordan and his books too. He, like, have you read, like, the Percy Jackson series and all of that?
I have started it. I've read the first book.
So, starting in the follow-up series, Heroes of Olympus after Percy Jackson, there tends to be a lot more, he gets a lot more diverse in every way. Race, sexuality, like, religion, just mentions a different religion. He keeps it pretty, and maybe it's just, like, maybe he felt then he had the power to do that, or, because of his greater influence, or maybe his, like, writing priorities, or how he felt about writing changed in between the first series and the second series. I don't know, behind the scenes, but he's been asked about that by certain people, because I don't, it was a shift, definitely, in certain ways, and he's just said, you know what, as a high school teacher, every one of these kids, every type of person, whether it be Muslim, gay, whatever, that you want to mention, any kid that I put in one of my books is a kid that I had in my classroom. And so I want every kid to feel like they have a place in my world, and disabled, whatever he wants to mention. And so he doesn't ever super, and he's another one who doesn't ever super make a big deal about any person's, like, whatever diversity that he's going for. He doesn't make it preachy, he doesn't whatever. And so that's what I appreciate about that too. And so that's why I like pieces of media that it feels like we just are who we are, and we're not gonna, like, make it a political screaming point right now.
Yeah, and like we've talked about before, Doctor Who in recent years in comparison has been incredibly guilty of this.
Yes, definitely.
And you'd think, with Russell T Davies penning a lot of it, you'd think that he wouldn't do that sort of thing. But then he does do it. He sort of hits you on the head with it. And then he came out, I think it was at a Comic-Con, and he said, all the actions and the monsters is for the adults and the messaging is for the kids. So I think that's why he does it so, like, hands-on. Because he wants... But then again, like, messaging doesn't have to be so, like, ham-fisted to be understandable to a child's mind.
That's what I like. That's why I still think that the majority of, like, Disney films hold up better than some of the modern ones, is because they go too political or too niche or too having a certain agenda, rather than being like, this is these topics or these themes or these ideas are either universal and can, like, speak to anybody that we're going for, or we leave it broad enough that we can, like, imply things, but trust that you're smart enough to take what you will from it and not feel like we have to explicitly go about, like, this is what we are intending right now.
Yeah, a lot of shows do that, even now. Like, a lot of shows go the safe route of, it's up to interpretation.
Yeah.
Which I hate, because it's just like, you wouldn't leave a straight couple up to interpretation. So why would you do that with a straight couple? Yeah,
Yeah.
That's why it's very refreshing with Good Omens, because, yeah, the first season was very kind of... I don't really know the word to use. It was kind of... You'd felt like it was being cowardly, but it was also going along with what the book wanted, which was fine. And then season 2 actually goes, you know what, you were all right. They are madly in love and we're gonna express it freely.
Uh-huh.
And a lot, like, I don't know, have you ever heard of The Legend of Korra?
Yes.
They were the first... The Legend of Korra was the first, if you guys don't know, was the first Western animation cartoon to feature a same-sex couple. Right at the very end. It wasn't... As someone who's seen The Legend of Korra, all of it, it wasn't massively well written. You could tell that they were censored a lot of the time. And they couldn't show certain things that would indicate that it was going in that direction. But when it finally did go in that direction, it meant a lot for companies, because that would mean that other companies would feel more comfortable doing that. And that led to, like, Bubblegum and Marceline in Adventure Time, and then Catra and Adora in She-Ra, and then Luce and Amity in the Owl House, and it just kept going from there. So that's why it gets bigger and bigger. So that's why, I don't usually err on the side of a show is good if it has queer representation, because that's not what I mean. What I mean is, a show has to be good, but it also sort of needs representation like this. I reckon a lot of the people who watch Good Omens are fully grown adults, but I know that there are also a lot of Tumblr girlies who watched the show and shipped it from, like, the 90s and really felt seen through Aziraphale and Crowley, which was good too.
Agreed.
And with Aziraphale and Crowley, you just get this sense of, it doesn't, because a lot of the time, like, two male characters will start off platonic. And then at the very end of a show, they'll go, oh, by the way, they're a couple. And I'm like, what? Like...
Yeah, like, where did that come from?
Like, that, for me, like, that... Like, I don't know if you've ever seen, Rapunzel's Tangled Adventure. Have you?
Yes, actually, I love that one.
Okay, so apparently, according to one of the writers, Cassandra had canonical feelings for Rapunzel. And...
Yeah, now.
And I feel like that is a bit messed up. I honestly feel as though they shoehorned that in to be like, oh, look, we have a queer character. But they were never going to do anything with it. Instead, they actually...
Yeah, it's like, dude... Yeah, it's like, dude, they had an entire episode where she's, like, dating this dude. Like, come on now.
Yeah, and they also had an entire episode of recreating the Tangled film with her in Eugene's place. To which I can go, okay, I get what you're trying to do, but then why canonize Cassandra as a lesbian and having feelings for Rapunzel, and then frame them as sisters at the end of the show due to having the same mother, pretty much, when you think about it?
Yeah, it's weird. That especially bugs me when it feels like things are shoehorned in just for the sake of, like, checking a box, or, like, I don't know, like, checking a representation box, or I don't know, when it doesn't feel organic and authentic, it's just, why?
Yeah, and it's not like they were ever gonna make Rapunzel and Cassandra canon, because there was Eugene. So why even bother saying that ever and making that a thing if you're not gonna do anything with it? Because you can't do anything with it. It upsets the kids that grew up with it because they love Rapunzel and Eugene, and she gets married at the end of the series anyway. We know this even going in because it's set before the wedding short. So it's like,
exactly.
It's like, why even bother? Why would you even say that? Like if you want to make Cassandra a lesbian, fine, go ahead and do that. Give her, make another character, write another character. Don't make her in love with our titular protagonist who's straight and married to another man. If you're not, and especially, like, let's say they'd done a storyline with it. Let's say they dared to be brave and bold and not homophobic like Disney often are, and they'd said, okay, let's make an unrequited love storyline with Cassandra and Rapunzel. That would have been deep for a kid show, first of all. That would have been deep. And then secondly, that would have been great for anyone who had been in that sort of situation. But then they just said that Cassandra was a lesbian and in love with Rapunzel, and then not only, again, did they not do anything, but they went the sister route, which made it feel gross. So it's like, they did it, but then they backed out last minute and went, oh no, we're not doing that. So, even though with all the parallels between her and Eugene and then Cassandra, the parallels are all there. And you'd think at times that Rapunzel would have better chemistry with Cassandra. But then they went the sister route. And sorry, I'm ranting about it too much. It's just really annoying.
No, it's just like, do what you're gonna do and commit to it, and, like, make up your mind from the beginning, like, this is who their person is, and, like, don't make that their whole personality either. Like, their whole point is to be gay. Like, no. Just, like, that was the thing. Crowley and Aziraphale, like, them loving each other was just how it was. It wasn't, like, their gayness wasn't the point.
I mean, you could tell they were gay. You could tell they were gay. They had certain, I don't want to say stereotypical characteristics, but you could also tell. But that was okay because it was backed up by different character traits and different vibes and personality types. Mm-hmm. It wasn't the whole thing, you know?
Yeah.
the best queer characters are the ones that have motives outside of being gay, because that's real people. If you make your queer characters as real as possible, that's the audience you're going to draw in. If you make it their whole personality, then it's not going to land with anybody, let alone gay people.
Exactly.
I love Ryan Reynolds, and I love the Deadpool films, but I don't remember the name of the character. One of them was gay. I think they were a member of the X-Men. I don't know have you seen the Deadpool films?
I've not.
Okay, so Deadpool often teams up with the X-Men, and there's this one character, I'm gonna look up their name, because this is driving me crazy. I'm just gonna look up their name and say it back. Okay, I actually can't find it. There was a character, and they were great in the first film, and they were really funny and really witty and really sarcastic, and they kind of bounced off of Wade Wilson a small bit. And then they got a girlfriend in the second film, and it became their entire personality.
Yeah.
And I was just like, why? I was like, why? They made a good joke out of it, because the character goes, "Oh, she's my girlfriend, you intolerant shit," and then Deadpool goes, "Whoa, pump the hate breaks, Fox and Friends. I'm just surprised anyone would date you, especially Pinkie Pie from My Little Pony." So it's like, that was funny, but that's like the only thing they do with it, because the character she's dating is basically the human embodiment of Pinkie Pie from My Little Pony, and that's the only joke they really make with it. And then after that, they just make it, "Oh, I have a girlfriend, don't be homophobic, haha." You know, and it's just not funny after that. Do something with it.
Yeah.
Make it a plot point. Kill off the character, maybe. And I have something controversial to say. I know that people don't like when queer characters are killed off, but that's life, man. Like, if a straight character is killed off, you won't be going, "Oh, people are heterophobic," you know? Like, sometimes characters just need to be killed off whether or not they're gay or straight. It's not really anything to do with that at the end of the day.
It's like, that just be life.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about that?
I agree. Sometimes it's like, yeah, sometimes it's just, that's where the story goes.
Yeah, because, spoilers for Rivals, actually, I want to point this out. I knew I was wanting to point something out. Have you seen Rivals, Maddie?
I've not.
Okay, I'm not going to say which characters, but in the most recent episode, a queer character was killed off. And all people did was complain about how, oh, they were a queer character and they got killed off, and it was homophobic of them. It really wasn't. This character, without spoiling anything, needs to be killed off for the plot to progress. Because this show is based off a book, and the book goes one way, and the show is going to go another way, and I feel like this character in particular needed to be killed off, and they happened to be gay. That's it. So I don't know why people complain about, like, oh, the people who work on Rivals are homophobic, or the people who worked on the Good Omens finale hated queer people. We'll get to that next week, obviously. But, you know, it's not a thing of studios hate queer people. It's a thing of what can we do to progress the story further? Now, with Disney, I would say that they hate queer people because they're cancelling all their queer shows like it's Tuesday. But, like, you can argue for that. But, like, you can't argue for, like, shows that happily have queer people in them. Because then that's going against the entire purpose of it.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like, is it serving it, or, like, you can tell the vibes. You can tell.
Yeah. Yeah, you can definitely tell the vibes. It's very tricky. Like, where do you draw the line between how do you progress the story forward without doing it in a homophobic way? But then if you went by that rhetoric, you'd be doing everyone a disservice, because sometimes queer people have to die in shows. And that's not because they're queer, that is just because they're an important character to the narrative. If they'd killed off anyone else in Rivals last week, it would not have hit as hard. And it would not progress the story forward in a way that I personally feel should be going. Because it would just be like, I have a certain character in my head they could have killed off. And I feel like if they killed off that character instead, then it would be... It wouldn't be fun enough. It would just be boring. There'd be no stakes. I feel like they needed to kill off that particular character in order for there to be stakes. And I don't care what anybody says about, you can't kill off queer characters. If we go by that rule, we can't kill off anybody. And sometimes characters just need to be killed off.
And I'll definitely want to bring this up again when we talk next about the next podcast, but it is, I think, in this modern world of like everyone's online, everyone has an opinion, everyone's obsessed with fan fiction and has their own thoughts on how things should go. I think people are maybe more vocal nowadays than they used to be about their opinions, or have much stronger opinions maybe on how they think things should go. And then if they don't go that way, then their whole world falls apart.
Yeah.
And so as far as like specifically what we're talking about, it's like you're walking that tricky line of like, trying to give the audience what they want, but also like staying true to your vision, what you want to do, where you think the story should go as an author, and not being too much in your head about what's the audience gonna think, how things like that.
Yeah, and especially because they say that about like shows that were set in the 80s, like Rivals is set in the 80s, and people will be like, oh, you can't kill off queer people in the 80s, that's just a homophobic thing. It's set in the 80s, dude. Like, if it's set in the 80s, there's gonna be restrictions for these characters. Because back then, the world, I don't know if any of you guys have seen Tiptoe, Russell T Davies' latest drama, but I'm starting to get into it, and I know how it ends. I'm not gonna spoil how it ends, but it's a message that even in today's standards, life for the LGBTQ plus community is hard. It's hard for people, and we should be aware of it, but we should also give creators and writers a little bit of a break.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Yeah.
What? Wait, what?
Everyone. No, just like I said, everyone I think is just getting more and more of an opinion and being louder about their opinions on media nowadays, and so it's just tough. It's hard to know where that line is, kind of a thing of being true to what you want to do, but yeah, not going completely the opposite way and alienating your fan base.
Like, as a writer myself, I feel like there are going to be queer characters in my stories, and some of them are going to be unapologetically killed off. Not because they're queer, but because it serves the narrative. And I'm not going to be afraid of that. And I encourage anyone else who's writing a queer story to not be afraid of that either. You're going to get backlash, but that's just life. You know, you're going to get backlash, but do what you feel is right for the story. As long as it's not coming from a homophobic place and you know that, even if people think that, just block out the noise. Because people are going to think that. But it's not true, and you know it's not. You know?
Yep. I disagree with all you said. Love it.
Thanks. And yeah, like, well, again, we can rant and rant and rant about Aziraphale and Crowley and where they ended up next time. But the impact that they had for as long as the show was going on was monumental, because at the start, Aziraphale and Crowley kind of looked like one of those ships that was gonna get semi-confirmed but never canon. Kind of like Dean and Castile from Supernatural, in a way. Because the creators came out and said that they took a lot of elements from Supernatural and put them into Good Omens. So I thought to myself, okay, that's not going to happen. And then it kind of broke the barrier, which was really important, and like I say again, really important for queer people. Like, imagine being like, I think Good Omens. I know Good Omens is rated R, but there's I know a lot of kids do watch it with their parents. Imagine being a queer kid sitting down watching this funny little goofy thing with your parents, watching them two fall in love and be like, hey, I can do that. Like, imagine how important that is for a little kid. Not a small kid, but a kid old enough to know who they are, you know? Whether they're gay, whether they're trans, whether they're non-binary, whether there's something else in the spectrum, like, they can watch these angels and these demons and Aziraphale and Crowley's relationship and go, hey, that's okay, that's normal. And that's really important. Especially, we should especially be saying that now, during Pride Month, where I think the community gets it the worst during Pride Month, because people, especially right-winged people, I'm not afraid to say it, will absolutely weaponize Pride Month and try to turn it into something that it's not. And David Tennant has been a really good advocate for Pride Month. Like, he goes on marches, he talks on podcasts about it. Like, if he had social media, he would be all over Pride Month with, like, and Twitter with rainbow confetti. I just know it. He has been such a good ally. And we thank him for it. And then he ended up playing one of the most iconic queer characters, I think, to ever come on TV. So, that was great.
Yes. Crowley is just himself, unapologetically. He just does his own thing. Whatever he wants to wear, whatever he wants to do, he's just Crowley, and we love him for it.
Not only is Crowley gay, but he's also extremely gender fluid, which works as well.
And this is perfect. No one bets an eye. We just love it.
Yeah. No, see, it's never said. It's never like, oh, I'm this, actually. Look at me. It's more like, yeah, whatever. I feel like Doctor Who, now that at the time of this recording, it's in deep shit, can I just say? Doctor Who is. I feel like Doctor Who should take a leaf out of Good Omens' book. Because I could make a whole video about how disappointed I am about the state of Doctor Who right now. But all I'm gonna say is this: Doctor Who needs to take a leaf out of Good Omens' book and train harder.
Can you?
Yeah,
because I don't think you can you can't get away from having messages in your media or having lessons or themes or whatever that you're trying to impart like that. You can't get away from having a purpose and a point as an author to what you're doing. Otherwise, why are you doing it?
Yeah.
But I think so many people nowadays, they've lost, like I said with Disney, they've lost the universality of it, or they've lost the ability to let the audience draw their own conclusions from what they're putting out there, kind of a thing, rather than trying to say, this is exactly what I want you to get from this, and if you don't get it, then you're wrong. No.
Yeah.
Just stop making every episode of everything we ever watch ever feel like a lecture on something. Stop.
Oh, and do you know what? Have you seen you saw the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who, right?
Yes.
Oh my god. I can't get over how ham-fisted it is. Like, I watch it back, and I'm like, who wrote this? Oh yeah. Looks over to RTD. Like, it was so bad.
Yeah.
I don't understand how we got to this place. I really don't. You'd think it
I
would be
still
a lot
quite
better.
like them, but some of the stuff they threw into the Star Beast, I'm just like, why?
Look,
Why was that needed?
yeah, like, we just want to make this clear. We're trans allies, we're non-binary allies, we don't care. We just want it to be good, and it wasn't good. And Yasmin Finney, by the way. We
still thank David for coming in and saving the thing, though. He reminded me why I love Doctor Who, because I'd kind of been in a slump during Jodie's era, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But David coming back, I'm like, this is the Doctor Who I love!
Oh, I know. And Jodie could have been brilliant with better writing. I think we all know that.
That ruined.
Yeah, the writing absolutely ruined. And you know what? It's such a shame. Because she's sort of like the Colin Baker of her generation now. In a sense that Colin Baker was like massively hated for years and years and years, and then he did Big Finish, and then things sort of got better for him. And now Jodie's doing Big Finish, and it's sort of getting better for her as well, but because there's so many more right-wing grifters on the internet now, I don't think Jodie's ever going to fully escape it, which is sad. Doctor Who could do better with its queer representation, I won't lie. It could do a lot better. But it's trying.
Let's just hope with this story that it just takes a step back, and when it's rebought up and restarts up again, that we can, someone said online, we just need to do a little bit of a reset like we did in 2005, give you just enough sprinkle in that we can bring back our old audience and bring in a new audience. Like, 2005 gave you just enough of the old to suck in the old Doctor Who fans, but then they, didn't lore vomit at you to where if you were a brand new fan, you felt like you couldn't jump in. They need to make this a good reset point. So we'll see what happens. But, yeah. Soapbox of Doctor Who. There we go.
Do you think it's actually going to come back?
I think it will. They've made very clear, it has been put out to tenor. We are, that's specifically the phrasing they use, we are optioning for new, people to talk about, for people to give their new pitches, and I do hope that the BBC is still invested in keeping the IP going. It might take a few years, but I think at this point it is so ingrained in the BBC that, to just let it die would be to just leave money sitting on the shelf.
Yeah, because I feel like it's sort of the BBC. This is the BBC's SpongeBob SquarePants in a sense. It's it's the thing that makes them money, and they're not gonna give it up. It might be shelved for a couple of years, but they have to bring it back eventually, because how are they gonna make their money?
Yep. I wish we could hope for the same thing with Good Omens, that we would get something else eventually, but who knows?
It's just, the thing is that Good Omens just isn't that kind of show. It's not the show that can reinvent itself over and over and over and not get tired of the same old format. It can't do that because it's a serialized show. It's not like Doctor Who.
That's true. That is a good point.
As much as I would love for that to be the case, as much as I would love for someone to come in and do something else with it, no one really has the right to do that. Legally or morally, you know?
I do feel like Rob Wilkins had said something about, before season 3 came out, I feel like he had sprinkled in some ideas of, he had stuff that he wanted to, keep the world going, but I don't know, who's to say? We might just have to say it was a beautiful 7 years and let it live forever in our heart. Who knows?
I don't think, maybe it'll get adapted again in, another 100 years or something. But we won't be around to see that. You know, and...
He's like, no, not about Michael and David. No, not about them.
Yeah, but we had it without Michael and David before. We had the radio play, which was really good.
That's true.
I don't think we necessarily need Michael and David to do Good Omens. I think we just need the characters and the whimsical plot and the sort of essence of it, and we're good. I can understand that why people would want Michael and David, because they're great together and they bring the characters to life so much, and I don't think anyone could do it like them. So
I mean, did you watch the um the behind the scenes thing they did where they were talking about the impact of Good Omens and like how much it's meant to them?
I did. It was so sad seeing Michael get all emotional.
I know when he's just like being able to do this and do this with David, it's like and all we've been through together. It's like hard to even talk about without getting emotional because of how much it's changed both of our lives. Like we didn't know each other, but like the impact these characters have had on both of them too. Michael having such a deep love and appreciation of Aziraphale, and David getting this friendship with Michael and getting to see the impact. He wasn't as familiar with the Good Omens world, and so hearing him talk about how much it's meant to him to see the reaction of the fans to these characters and to this world, and how like much that's meant to him, and how important that it's felt to him to take care of these characters and to I don't know, just not break what people love so much is, you can tell that this has meant so much to them, as much to them as it's meant to us.
Yeah, and I love that. I love when people care about the property they're producing. I love when when the actors really do care about what they're bringing to the fans and things like that. It really, it makes for a better product when you think about it. Because when people really care, they won't just shoehorn in anything. They'll do whatever they can to make it work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just love that you love seeing, and I think that's why we have been so invested in them as well because you can feel that love for Crowley and Aziraphale in them, in their dedication to the characters and the craft and everything that they've done. You can just tell that it was done with so much love.
Yeah, and I feel like, you know, next episode is our last one, and, you know, it's been, I said this to you privately, but it's been such a joy and pleasure getting to work with you and getting to know you and getting to talk about Good Omens with someone who's as passionate about it as I am.
Mm-hmm.
It's a show that brings people together and creates friendships like ours and creates meaningful conversation, and I think that's the best thing you can do with a piece of art. Yeah.
Even season one, like before I watched season two, where they got into the more trippy aspect of it, season one it's just so entertaining and so again I think we mentioned in podcast one this isn't necessarily the biggest fandom in the world compared to things like Marvel or anything Star Wars or anything like that. It's by no means the biggest fandom in the world, but the amount of passion and care that we have for these characters and the impact these characters have had is just awesome to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. It's so, and it's such a warm show, you know? Like
Mm.
it's not too dramatic. It's not too sad. It's sort of something that it's sort of a comfort show for a lot of people because it's one of those shows that you can just sit back and watch and just forget about all your troubles because it's so whimsical and so nonsensey. If you like, it's just full of nonsense. The whole show.
It just makes me happy.
Yeah. And it's brought so much joy to so many people, and I think that's the most important thing, is that it brings joy to people. And I think that's worth talking about before we go into our last episode, is that it's just it's great. It brings so much joy to so many people. It's made friendships, it's made even found family in a sense, and you get community from it that you don't get with, say, Doctor Who, because last we've talked about, the Doctor Who fandom is like diving into a pool of lava. Whereas the Good Omens fandom is full of like-minded people who share the same ideals and values and maybe have different opinions on the finale as a whole, but can still respect each other enough to be civil and kind.
As long as we stay off of the boiling pool of lava that is Twitter. We don't talk about Twitter.
Yeah, we do not talk about Twitter. Though we might talk about Twitter in next week's. Because Twitter had a lot to say. Alright, so I think we better wrap this one up.
I can tell we're just chomping at the bit to talk about the finale, and it cracks me up.
Yeah, I know.
We're gonna have a lot
to
to
talk
say.
about the finale so bad. Alright, guys. Alright. I'm Rebecca.
And I'm Maddie.
And this has been the Ineffable Podcast. Bye-bye.
Bye.